So, on the topic of the previous video, I thought I'd give a short outline of the basic logic that runs behind why conservatives generally support banning certain types of things and not other types of things. There are a lot of factors at play here, but there's one central issue that I think is a core piece of the logic, yet it's rarely talked about explicitly by conservative commentators or other people. Most of my videos I talk about politics from a more dissident right perspective, but what I'm talking about here goes more to the ways that ordinary everyday conservatives conceptualize things. So, the question often goes, why do you support banning abortion, recreational drug use, euthanasia, or pornography when you don't support banning alcohol or guns? Especially since the reason that conservatives oppose banning things like alcohol or guns is because of appeals to freedom or liberty. These questions often are seen as ridiculous by conservatives, but they don't really put their finger on just what the problem is here. There are a number of ways to respond to this type of question. One is to discuss effectiveness. For example, Second Amendment advocates will argue that gun bans are anyways ineffective at reducing crime. But that is of course not a principled difference, just a difference in the perceived effectiveness of the proposed legislation. American conservatives also might cite that guns and free speech are protected by the Constitution, while the things that they want to ban are not. I suppose that's a principled difference in the sense that constitutional rights are worth defending, but there's still something much more core at play here that puts these types of issues in different categories. Here's a clip of Ben Shapiro responding to this type of question. He gives a decent answer, but he doesn't really get to the heart of the issue.
How can you honestly stand up here and say that you support abortion, you support government intervention, you support government intervention to make abortion illegal, which is designed to kill someone, and yet you can stand up here and say you don't want government intervention for guns, which are also designed to kill people?
Because guns are not designed to kill children. Guns are designed to kill bad guys if operated by a proper person. There's not an abortion in the world that doesn't end with the death of a baby. I have no problem with looking at the pictures of gun violence victims, other than the problems any other human being, left or right, would have with looking at those pictures, which is that they're horrific and deeply disturbing and very upsetting. But I don't feel any sense of guilt or avoidance. Like, I can't look at this picture because I bear some sort of responsibility for this. It is impossible not to look at a picture of an aborted baby and say this was disconnected from the act that I approve, because the act is the killing of the baby. There's no policy that I approve of that ends with the murder of children. Okay? There is a policy that is designed for the murder of children, which is what abortion is.
Okay, so but if all people, right, you said that once the cells come together, you said those are considered people, which I can understand, I can get
No, I
behind
said that's
that.
considered a human life.
A human life, right.
Yes.
Why is this human life being killed and another human life being killed by gun violence? Why is that any different?
Again, it's not a matter of the value of the human life being different. It's equally as evil and tragic and horrific and disgusting when people kill fully formed children who are outside the womb. My point is that the act that connects to the killing of the children is not connected to my position on guns. The act that connects to the killing of unborn babies is connected to the legalization of abortion.
Ben gets close to the principle here, but he doesn't quite hit it. The real core issue here, the real principle difference, is when conservatives want to ban X, they are usually arguing that X is an inherent evil, and when they don't want to ban Y, it's because Y is related to a social problem, but it isn't in itself evil. Now maybe evil is too moralistic language for you, but perhaps at the very least we can all agree that certain types of actions are bad. If you're a full moral nihilist, well then, this conversation really isn't for you. So, as an example, an intrinsic evil act is murder, since murder is by definition illegal or immoral killing of a person. The licit ending of a human life is by definition not a part of murder. So, when a conservative says they want to ban something, it's because they implicitly believe that that something is inherently evil, where things that progressives sometimes want to ban, such as guns, are connected to a social problem, such as gun violence, but they are not in themselves immoral. To give a specific example, the reason that pro-life people want to ban abortion is not because they believe abortion causes a lot of harm. The reason they want to ban abortion is because they believe the very nature of abortion is a harm-causing act. The reason that many of these same people do not want to ban firearms is because, though they are of course connected to the social problem of gun violence, there's nothing about the ownership of a gun that is in itself harm-causing or immoral. For these two issues here, they operate fine using the classical liberal harm principle that things should be prevented if they cause harm to others, the justification being that abortion is bad because it inherently causes harm, while guns are not bad because owning a gun does not inherently cause harm. But the core distinction for conservatives is not really that, it is the intrinsic evil of an act. Since, if we go to other examples, we can see that direct harm isn't really the issue at hand. For example, their prohibition of cocaine. There's nothing inherent about the act of using cocaine that directly harms anyone, though it certainly does cause a lot of harm at a society-wide level. But the reason why most conservatives support banning drugs, particularly hard drugs, is because they see them as intrinsically evil substances. Using cocaine is intrinsically bad, and it is believed that no good can come from this sort of action. Conservatives usually support alcohol being legal, but criminalizing cocaine, because they believe that it is both common and possible to have a totally healthy relationship with alcohol. But by definition, they believe that there's no such thing as a healthy cocaine habit. The same holds for the other things that I've listed, pornography or euthanasia, for example. Conservatives see these things as intrinsically degrading of the human person. Some pornographic habits may be worse than others, but all are seen as bad. The things that the left want to ban, on the other hand, are generally seen as social problems. Guns are a perfect example of this, since I'm sure even most gun control advocates would agree that there's nothing inherent about the ownership of a gun that is immoral. But the reason why progressives want to restrict or ban the ownership of guns is because they believe that it leads to the larger social problem of gun violence. It's nothing about the intrinsic nature of owning a gun, but the result that progressives believe happen from millions of people owning firearms. Even alcohol is another good example of this, since it was usually progressives that supported alcohol prohibition. Other than Muslims, I'm sure most people would agree that alcohol is not in itself something that's immoral. Most people that support alcohol prohibition would have argued, and would currently argue, that the reason that they support it is because of the society-wide implications that having millions of alcohol drinkers results in. Now, that is of course not to say that the only reason progressives want to ban something is because that they believe that that something is connected to a social problem. Of course, as said previously, I'm sure most progressives believe that murder is intrinsically bad. But when there's a disagreement between conservatives and progressives on what to ban, it's usually this reason. Progressives want to ban something because they wish to fix a social problem, while conservatives want to ban something because they believe that it's inherently immoral. It's of course never quite explicitly verbalized as this difference, but I think this is what's going on under the hood of a lot of these conversations, without everyone really quite realizing it. Now, I've moved on from normie conservatism, so this isn't exactly the train of logic that I follow, but I still think it's interesting and important to dissect what exactly is going on here when conservatives say they want to ban X but not Y. Because there is a consistent train of logic at work here. It's a bit beyond the scope of what I have planned for this video to do a total dissection of the problems with this framework, though I suppose the main issue that I have is my main issue with normie conservatism in general. It's that the definitions of intrinsic evil become meaningless with how the modern Overton window shifts. This sort of framework requires a common social understanding of what evil is and what we mean by evil. As the Overton window continues to shift left, the meaningfulness of evil even as a category continues to be diminished. Progressives of course do believe in evil, but they invent their own words to refer to it. Racist, sexist are far more powerful words today than evil or satanic. And by reinventing the wheel, reinventing what absolute evil is in modern society, it allows progressive moral language to dominate the discussion and dominate what is viewed as acceptable and unacceptable. So any traditional conservative framework of morality and any language that goes along with it is simply meaningless in modern dialogue. It just doesn't have the moral weight that it would have had in a previous society. Conservatives are trapped in the modern paradigm, using what is essentially, in political terms, a dead language, something that just does not have the weight that it once would have had. Of course, that's all well and good, but there's no solution, or at least no easy solution, to this problem. I certainly don't have it. We can and we should try to push back against the Overton window. We should, as Mencius Moldbug says, try to show the smallness of the minds of the modern world. We should show that there's so much more outside the Overton window than there is inside of it. But there are no easy solutions for the problems that we face. Thank you everyone for watching this video. Please like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell, and most importantly, please share this video with anyone who you think might find it interesting. Also, I have a short announcement. I'll be doing a live stream this Thursday with Fritz Imperial. I'd appreciate if you to check it out. I'll leave a link to it in the description of this video. We'll be discussing the meaning of Advent and Christmas as New Catholics. I hope I'll see you all there. I'll have more videos out soon. Thanks again for watching, have a good day, and bye.